The alimentary canal and nutrient absorption. The oral cavity. The oral cavity is also called the mouth. The mouth is the primary site of mechanical digestion. Muscles of mastication, or chewing, control movement of the jaw. Thousands of glands in the tongue and lining of the oral cavity wet the food with saliva. The tongue has taste receptors, a rough surface that helps with breakdown, and muscles to push the food into the pharynx. Accessory organs of the oral cavity. Teeth pulverize or masticate the food during chewing. Salivary glands, located in the lower jaw and anterior to, which means in front of, the ear, secrete mucus-containing digestive enzymes into salivary ducts, which carry the enzyme-rich fluid, saliva, into the mouth. The tongue pushes bolus, which is chewed, rounded mass of food, into the pharynx. Accessory organs of the oral cavity. Accessory organs do not consist of organs that make up the alimentary canal. They include organs like the lips, the uvula that hangs down the back of the mouth there, the tongue, the teeth, the salivary glands. All of these are accessory organs of the oral cavity. Pharynx. The tongue and pharynx together carry out swallowing using voluntary muscles. The muscles surrounding the pharynx contract and push the food downward into the esophagus. To feel the pharynx at work, place your index finger and thumb around the front, top of your neck, and swallow. Esophagus. The esophagus is a tube lined with smooth muscle. This type of muscle is involuntary. It will contract and propel food down on its own, so you don't have to think about it. It carries food from the bottom of the pharynx into the stomach. It is located behind, or posterior to, the trachea and in front of, or anterior to, the spinal column. So the esophagus, it is right here, and it is behind the trachea, which is this tube right here, and the spinal column is in back of the esophagus over here. Peristalsis. Peristalsis begins in the esophagus and continues in the stomach and small intestine. Peristalsis is the involuntary contractions of muscles surrounding organs and creating wave-like propulsion that moves food through the alimentary canal. At the bottom of the esophagus is the esophageal sphincter. It's a circular muscle that permits the passage of food into the stomach but resists the movement of food in the opposite direction. Stomach. The stomach is located in the upper left part of the abdomen. The stomach carries out both mechanical and chemical digestion. The stomach wall is lined with external muscle to help with peristalsis and mechanical digestion. The stomach wall secretes acid and enzymes, which work with other enzymes to enhance protein digestion. Microorganisms usually do not survive the mechanical and chemical digestion of the stomach. In addition, the very acidic environment kills most microorganisms as well. One notable exception is H. pylori. This is the bacterium that causes peptic ulcers. At the bottom of the stomach is the pyloric sphincter, which creates a one-way valve leading into the small intestine. So when the chyme in the stomach moves into the small intestine through the pyloric sphincter, it cannot go back from the small intestine into the stomach. Small intestine. The small intestine carries out peristalsis, chemical digestion, and absorption of nutrients. It is the primary site of absorption of nutrients. The small intestine is highly adapted to carry out its absorption function efficiently. It is a great anatomical example of a structure-function relationship. The average human small intestine is 22 meters long, an adaptation to increase absorption of nutrients. The small intestine has thin walls, which is an adaptation that enhances or improves passage of nutrients from the alimentary canal into the bloodstream. Villi. The epithelium of the small intestine is lined with villi. This is the main site of absorption, or the uptake of nutrients into the bloodstream. A villus is a microscopic, finger-shaped projection of epithelial cells surrounding capillaries. So epithelial cells are on the surface, so the epithelial cells are all these over here, and these epithelial cells are covered in capillaries, which are carrying blood, and so the nutrients, they come from the small intestine, through these cells, and then into the bloodstream, which is carried by the capillaries. Villi. The shape of the narrow, finger-like villi combined with the length of the small intestine results in a tremendous surface area between the digestive system and the bloodstream, an adaptation to increase absorption of nutrients. The high surface area between the villi epithelial cells and the capillaries enhances movement of nutrients from the alimentary canal into the bloodstream. Between the villi are intestinal glands that secrete digestive enzymes into the small intestine, furthering chemical digestion. How does absorption take place? Almost all absorption of fully digested nutrients and minerals occurs in the small intestine. Fully digested nutrients have been reduced to monomers, which include fatty acids, glycerol, amino acids, and simple sugars. Vitamins and minerals have been released from food by physical and chemical digestion. How does absorption take place? Monomers, vitamins, and minerals are actively transported from the alimentary canal across cell membranes and into the epithelial cells that line the villi. They are transported across the cytoplasm of the epithelial cells and actively transported again from the epithelial cells into the capillaries of the villi. The capillaries carry the nutrients away to larger blood vessels, to the liver for further processing, and distribute them all over the body. Every cell of the body is in contact with the bloodstream and can take up the needed nutrients. Actively transported means that this process requires energy. It requires energy to transport monomers, vitamins, and minerals across the cell membranes and into the blood. Large intestine. The large intestine, also called the colon, is responsible for water absorption and elimination. Although it is called the large intestine, it is not as long as the small intestine. The large intestine has a larger diameter than the small intestine. It is subdivided into the cecum, colon, rectum, and anus. The main function of the large intestine is to absorb water and minerals in the colon. Why does water move into the body from the large intestine? Undigested, unabsorbed material passes to the rectum and anus for elimination. Large intestine. In this diagram, we see the large intestine depicted. It starts from over here, and then it moves the material up through the ascending colon because it's going up, and then the transverse colon goes across, and the descending colon goes down. The sigmoid colon has a little sigmoid shape, and the rectum goes straight down because rectum, rho rectus means straight, and then out the anus is eliminated feces.